Hey everybody, it's Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training. Welcome to the third and final video on the NIK Filters Sharpening Pro. We're going through and taking the next few weeks to go through all the filters that are inside the NIK filter pack. That's absolutely free if you go down to Google and you can download those packs. It's a great unit, and I want to show you all the positives going on. If you remember from our conversation yesterday, we had gone into the new Sharpener Pro 3, and so let's go back in there, and I kind of stopped short of giving you the end output. Videos get a little bit long, and I know that you're all just trying to go out there. And the other thing is I want you to keep coming back and seeing what we got to offer here. So if you remember yesterday, quick review, I went in and I selected a different type of output that we went into. I left it on auto, and then I put in the type of paper I was going to use, and I put in the resolution. Remember that each paper is very porous, and so with each of that, different sharpening techniques come up so that it'll accommodate that kind of functionality of those papers. If you have softer papers, those absorb more ink, and so more sharpening is needed on those particular pieces. So with that said, we're going to just double click in one area here, and this will bring the loop up a little bit brighter, and I'm going to go into the face area. You can see that there's a little bit of sharpening that's been added here already because I've put the sharpening on. There's three ways, there's three types of basic sharpening that are going on. You've got one that's inside the camera, you've got the output device, and then you've got your creative sharpening, which is down here, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. You have to be very careful when you're adding strength for your output here. We're going to over sharpen this to a point. You can start seeing here where this becomes way over sharpened and it's becoming way too grainy. Basically what's happening is when you're doing this, it's basically adding noise or grain to the actual image. Grain in the old film days, noise to what we're doing today. But what it does is it adds noise. So what happens when you have to do that, when you're taking sharpening away, what is it doing? It's taking noise away, and it's kind of blurring the image down or softening it down when you're pulling noise or when you're pulling sharpening down. So the output sharpening strength, or the creative sharpening area here, is designed to be able to have you go in and change what you have inside here to create more sharpening or less sharpening depending on what you want. The other controls are inside here is that structure button, which we've discussed with the videos last week. This is really kind of a clarity button, which I really hate. I wish Photoshop never put that in their raw conversion area because I think it's a terrible filter, and people are overusing it and using it as a sharpening technique instead of going out and getting a nice sharpener either from NIK or from some other third party that are out there. There's so many great sharpening filters out there that my recommendation is not to use the clarity filter to be doing that. Because when you add too much clarity, it adds, again, the haloing is around there, and then you got a lot of problem. So you can add some contrast, and you can also add focus here. So all of these creative features under the creative sharpening area are designed for you to be able to use those. Now, anytime that you go into one of these and you double click on it, it'll set it back to its neutral point, or its point where you started. Now, once you've added the sharpening on all of this stuff, you can go in and add a control point. And control points, as we know, are you can take one area of the photograph and you can go in and add sharpening in one area. So let's go ahead and go in here and take a look at all of the different structure and everything that we have on here. Now, we already talked a little bit about this. Once you go into an area and get that going, I just double clicked on it because I wanted to see kind of the area that we had here. But once you click into that point, it'll give you the exact area that you're in. Now, if you want to copy that, if you hold down your Alt or Option button, depending if you're Mac or PC, you'll be able to drag that same point into the new area that you have over here. So this will be able to allow you to use that, again, same structure point. These are your control points. And we use those in the first videos that we did last week. And you notice here, once you add those control points, you can see exactly where the filter strength is here. And you can go in and re-edit, of course, any of these points that you go into. And you could go down here and duplicate the same points. It's just easier for me to do that. Now, remember, you can always do the down arrow to open up the toggle that's down here and be able to go into your structure. This is your local contrast, and this is your focus. And this is exactly the same tools that you have over here in the creative sharpening area. So if you want, just go into a certain area and you'll be able to kind of go through and figure out sharpening and add it in a certain area or not. The last thing I want to show you about this is going into the sharpened image area. You can actually go in and change this so that you can see kind of an effectual overlay on where the sharpening is going to be and going in. And you can change your points here. I normally go into the sharp proof area so that it gives me kind of a preview of exactly what's happening inside the image itself. You can always go into the preview area, which I really like their area here, and you can go into the image and see close up. Let's double click right inside here, and you can go into the sharpening and what it's doing. Taking a look at it, you can see here on the bottom, this is our sharpening. Here on the top is the original image. So this is your viewing area, and this is our split screen viewing mode. So I'm going to tip back out of here. By the way, I didn't show you this last week, but if you click on that item, it'll go from vertical to horizontal so that you can see it in either way. Remember, you can always click off the preview button right up here if you wanted to see it without. But when I'm in preview, I really like to see this. Now remember that when you're in preview, or when you're in that split screen mode, this is not available as far as your preview is concerned. You're going to have to make sure that you're in full screen mode to be able to get to that preview. As soon as you go into a split screen mode, that preview becomes unavailable because it assumes that you're probably close up taking a look at it. But you can see this filter actually does a really nice job. And so again, I'd really like to see you be using more of that output sharpener inside Sharpener Pro 3, which is included, again, absolutely free of charge with all of the NIK filters that you have. And like everything that I do inside Photoshop, I do like to have that layer, and that's a great option to be able to have. Well, next week we're going to be going into some of the other items, and we're going to be going into Divine and Vivesa before we go into my favorite program out of all of them, which is the Color Effects Pro 4, which is included. So until next week, I'm Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training. I hope you've enjoyed this series on the Sharpener Pro. Tune in next week, and we're going to be going over some more of those free NIK filters that are out there and how they work. Until then, I'll see you on the tube.